Define Properties say they're cautiously optimistic for the property market as its headline earnings jump 11%. We hear the case for allowing legally harvested rhino horn to be exported and sold. Ultron says Netstar subscriptions are still climbing strongly. Cheslin Jacobs will tell you what he wants to do in the next phase of Time Bank. And from 7:30 tonight, the business coach Tsepo Matlo on how he helps people reach the top of their potential. All of that to come, but first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Maki Malapo. An informal trader in Johannesburg CBD says she has no idea how she's going to pay her rent after being unable to work for nearly a month. The city of Johannesburg has been on a bylaws enforcement drive which has included evicting traders operating outside designated areas. The metro has been involved in a legal battle with the Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa, which argued the traders' right to earn a living was being violated. The Gauteng High Court ordered the city today to speed up the process of verifying informal traders and assigning them trading stalls. Afara Mushana has more.
Thokozani Ndlovu has supported her family for years by selling steel wool, snacks and other kitchen essentials. She says the income from her stall was enough to provide for her family, cover her monthly rent of 2,500 rand and pay her taxi fare. However, Ndlovu says the past month has been particularly challenging for her as her income was taken away. She says she now faces the difficult task of finding alternative ways to keep a roof over her family's head.
I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent because now the rent is coming. I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. The landlords, they don't allow, if you're not working, they chase you out. They don't give chances. They don't care what's going on.
The city of Johannesburg says informal traders will now be vetted and assigned designated trading stalls. The city has emphasized that it will no longer allow traders to set up stalls wherever they choose. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg.
In the east of Johannesburg, Recha Park residents in Ekurhuleni have accused the families of those responsible for this past weekend's attack that claimed 6 lives of protecting the criminals. They allege the suspects are known and were seen by witnesses during the drive-by shooting on Saturday. However, they've not been arrested. 3 others were injured in the shooting. Jabulile Mbata has more.
Residents are claiming that an attack of this nature is not new, adding that the motive is usually gang-related. Community members came out in their numbers today as acting mayor of Ekurhuleni, Jongizizwe Tlhabati, and other city officials visited deceased families. Some residents lashed out at people who they say enabled the criminals by not reporting them to police. This resident, who doesn't want to be identified, spoke to EWN.
Everyone knows who it is. They know the people, but they are scared to talk. And then the other thing is, if it comes to your house, where about you ask, you as the parent, you know your son or your, and then at the end of the day, you still hide your child. I mean, which is very wrong. Look at the lives we lost already because of mothers hiding their kids.
Additional police will be deployed to the area. Jabulile Mbata, Eyewitness News, Rechapark.
The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry wants Hawks head of tactical operations Lisiba Mokoena to appear again and clarify his testimony. In his testimony last week, Mokoena denied he participated in a WhatsApp group that was created on the 6th of December last year. This was the same day suspected criminal underworld gang boss Katiso Katie Molefe was arrested. The group was established to verify whether there were legitimate police officers at Molefe's home. Evidence leader Lee Seegels Ngube says Mokoena would prefer not to appear at the commission again until he has considered legal advice on all the evidence that will be presented before the commission.
He's not sure if at this stage he is considered an implicated person, having regard to the evidence that was led last week. So he's still considering his position, and my understanding from the DPCI's legal advisor is that they've advised him not to participate at this stage unless the commission absolutely wants him to come, but even then he'll still consider his position.
Chairperson Mbuyiseli Madlanga says while Mokoena is well within his rights to seek legal advice, the Commission will definitely need him to come back and testify again.
But all of this, as you remember, related to whether or not he participated in the group. And he said he did not. And Captain Kruger said he did. And on the statements that we have shown, other witnesses, or at least there is one, but probably more than just one, who again contradict him. So we just must hear him again.
And FlySafe is confident operations will not be affected by a possible employer-initiated work stoppage amid wage negotiations. The airline is still meeting with the South African Cabin Crew Association despite issuing an interim notice of the stoppage scheduled to commence at midnight. Wage negotiations deadlocked on Friday, but FlySafe's Chief Marketing Officer Kirby Gordon says they're optimistic about reaching an agreement.
Importantly, though, our operations remain fully protected. Even if the employer-initiated work stoppage does go ahead tomorrow, we have the full schedule covered by crew who are willing to work.
Gold's trading at $4,011.71 an ounce. The rand's at 17.30 to the dollar, at 22.75 to the pound, at 19.94 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $64.62 a barrel.
In your sport, Proteas women switched their focus to 2029 after World Cup final disappointment. Miguel Cardoso predicts Bedway Premiership title race will go down to the wire. And Eliud Kipchoge unveils plan to run 7 marathons on 7 continents.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Both Joburg and Pretoria will drop to overnight lows of 15 degrees and peak at highs of 20. Vereniging's at 16 and 22. A partly cloudy start for Cape Town. Otherwise, it's clear skies tomorrow, along with fresh southerly winds at a low of 15 and a high of 25 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. An informal trader in Johannesburg CBD says she has no idea how she's going to pay her rent after being unable to work for nearly a month.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage in Bryanston, heading towards four-way slow-moving traffic. N1 southbound, that's between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive, Calvin Alex area. We still have those roadworks causing delays heading towards Germiston. That's the N3 southbound between the Batu Interchange and London Road, heading into Bedford View. There's slow-moving traffic in Edenvale, R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Giluli's Interchange. Sunwood Park, Boxburg, roadworks causing heavy delays heading towards Brakpan. That's the N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City, while in the Mother City, there's slow-moving traffic still. This is on the M5 northbound approaching Barkley Road, and there's also slow-moving traffic on the N2 outbound between Mowbray Main and Airport Approach. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, advancing Red Rocket's ambitions with Discovery Green as the off-taker to power Africa's future through affordable, renewable energy. Good evening. Welcome to the program. I'm Stephen Grootes. 8 minutes after 6 tonight. Quite a busy day from a sort of corporate point of view. One of those Mondays. A few results are coming through. We'll speak to Andrew Koenig, the CEO at Redefine Properties, in just a moment. It may just be me, but I'm hearing more and more conversations that sort of start with, has Joburg hit bottom? Are we seeing property prices going up? Very difficult to assess. Will depend where in Joburg you are, what you're seeing. There's some cautious optimism coming from one or two sort of people in the property market. I am also aware that estate agents will talk you, well, into anything and out of any slump as well. So maybe there's a little bit of that. Maybe, and I think this has happened before, people have talked themselves out of recessions. Maybe we need to look at doing that in Joburg. We'll speak to Dr. Derek Luton. In fact, he's already in our studios already. He's been very involved in the rhino horn story. Spent 3 weeks in jail himself. The argument, of course, is should rhino horn be allowed to be exported and sold or not? And there was a big court case about it. And on Friday, in fact, a judge said that, yes, it should be allowed to be exported and sold so long as it was harvested legally. So it's being harvested from rhino, which are being kept safe through the efforts of conservationists. The conservationists have been looking after them, harvesting the horns. What do you do with the horns, really, is the question. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Eltron doing a very, very well indeed. Netstar, the tracking company, still the standout there. Their subscriptions are up 11%. But they are saying that there are tighter IT budgets. I was slightly surprised at that. Werner Kapp, the CEO at Altron, he'll be on your Money Show in around 40 minutes. And don't forget as well, before the end of the hour, Cheslin Jacobs, the incoming CEO at Time Bank. Where does Time go next from here? What's the next sort of phase of Time Bank? Looking forward to that conversation as well. Good to hear from you tonight on 011 883 0702 021 446 0567, and of course voice notes on 072 702 1702.
702.
702.
Stephen is on the Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
Well, news today of a big auction of a piece of land that is quite literally on top of the Gautrain station in Sandton. It's 3.9 hectares. It's a big piece of land in a very rich part of the country. And I was thinking, what do you think Sandton needs? What should happen to the land? It's going on auction. I'm sure it'll get a few $100 million. You will be quite close to the US consulate. Probably get good security as a plus. Maybe not such a great place to be. What does Sandton need? I had a few thoughts myself. I thought that maybe we need some cheap restaurants. I mean, unlikely to happen in Sandton. Maybe we could do with a helipad. Don't know if there's a publicly ever useful helipad in Sandton. There are a couple in Cape Town. There are one or two, I think. There was supposed to be one in Bryanston. Not sure what happened there. I thought a hot air balloon park could be quite fun. Take the kids. How about, seriously now, a concert venue? An outdoor concert venue? Maybe, actually, an outdoor movie theatre. Just think about it for a minute. In winter, crisp and cold, you've got one of those heaters. You know the weather's going to be fine. You have a couple of good movies out, a different experience to streaming. You have some nice couches. You have something nice to eat. You could do something quite seriously good there. I thought an outdoor running track in Sandton actually would be hugely popular, close to the Discovery Building. They'll have to support it. There are all sorts of things that you could do with it. Your thoughts, please. What does Sandton need? 072 702 1702. More parking is not an answer.
The Money Show on 702.
Monday to Friday, 6 to 8 p.m.
All right, 12 after 6 now. Redefine Properties using the phrase cautiously optimistic around the future of the property market, reporting its headline earnings per share up by 11% for the year to the end of August. Its net asset value per share up by 3.6%. Andrew Koenig is the CEO at Redefine Properties. Andrew, good evening and thanks for the time. You say Redefine is in a better place now than it was a year ago. What do you think were the major changes? What happened to allow you to improve its position?
Good evening, Stephen. Nice to chat to you. Stephen, that statement made about Redefine being in a far better position doesn't come lightly. If you just look at the business as a whole, our total assets have grown by 4.4 billion rand to 106 billion rand. That's underpinned by growing local assets here in South Africa from a value perspective, lifting 1.9 billion rand. We've recycled a whole lot of capital. We've sold properties to the value of 1.1 billion rand here in South Africa, and Poland a further 163 million rand. Very importantly, from a balance sheet point of view, we strengthened our balance sheet by lowering our loan-to-value ratio to 40.6%. Most of our debt facilities have been renewed for 2026 already. The total is just under 8 billion rand. And we find ourselves in a very strong liquidity position with about 6.7 billion rand of undrawn facilities and cash. With that, Stephen, we've reported distributable income growth of 7.8% to 3.6 billion rand. And that's all in a backdrop of pretty stagnant rental income levels. And it's all been a focus on efficiencies, as well as being assisted with interest rates easing during the course of 2025, Stephen. All of these things have culminated into this outcome.
Okay, so, you talk about being flexible, about using technology more effectively. What do you mean by that? With flexibility is about how you manage your buildings? Is it about taking decisions about what to do with buildings more quickly?
Stephen, it's being proactively changing and adapting our properties to ensure that they remain relevant to our users' needs. Every property has a unique value proposition and offering, and it's just making sure that they stay fresh and that they don't lose touch with reality and what's happening within the buildings. So from a technology perspective, for example, number plate recognition systems allow us to ease of access from a parking perspective. Similarly, from a building access perspective as well, technology enables that. But very importantly, controlling the building management systems through technology to detect water leaks, for example, proactively, so that we are very, very focused on consumption of our utilities, and electricity management similarly, all driven by technology, Stephen. This translates into efficiency for the tenants, it translates into a lower cost of occupation, and it enables us to maintain our rentals at a reasonable level. So for us, it's about improving that tenant experience through technology. That's very, very important.
Your occupancy in South Africa is 93.5%. Where are the vacancies? And Andrew, I think you know this is really a question about Gauteng.
It is, Stephen, and you can zone in on Sandton if you like as well. You know, the office sector is the driver of, or the primary driver of that vacancy level. Our current vacancy in the office space is about 13%. It is really down to about 3 properties that we are, working on having filled. And if we can do that, we will significantly reduce that vacancy level down to single-digit figures. That isn't as easy as it seems, Stephen, given that offices are still in a situation of oversupply, and because it's a services-driven environment, we need to get the economy working to increase the level of demand for services, which will translate into demand for office space. And that's what really will drive that down.
Do you think
we also have a quality portfolio, so it's not a question of having C and B grade offices that's causing this. This is more a demand situation.
Sure. Do you think, sorry to interrupt you, do you think that the work from home kind of practice has peaked? People are going back, maybe hybrid, but people are in the office at least 2 days a week?
I think much more, Stephen. I think a lot of people are largely over the flexible policy. It has settled, and I don't think, people are permanently working from home any longer. I think there's a number of senior managers around the country who would prefer their staff back full-time. Can they be back full-time? Practically, possibly no. But I do think if you just look at most of the parking lots within buildings, they are generally full and filling up. So and if you just drive around Sandton in peak hour, you're starting to feel that as well, that there are definitely more people back at the office.
And Gauteng's property market generally, Andrew, I mean, from your experience of managing commercial properties, do you see any signs of recovery then? I mean, is there a bit more interest? Do you think we're sort of past the bottom and going up?
So I think there are nodes, Stephen, that are doing quite well. I think this whole drive back to the office is benefiting residential or close to residential nodes. For example, Bryanston is doing very well. Rosebank is also in good space. I think in Sandton, you've got basically 2 halves of Sandton. The one half close to the Gautrain vicinity doing very well. Perhaps the ones further away, not so much. It's all about location, Stephen, at the end of the day, and access to amenities, and I suppose it's all about, that work-life balance that everyone is seeking now, that you want, everything to be convenient and basically, it enables you to have a balanced lifestyle.
Andrew Koenig, thanks so much. CEO at Redefine Properties, 18 minutes after 6.
The Money Show
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
and DSTV channel 856.
Well, a High Court ruling on Friday essentially allows someone who has harvested rhino horn as part of a rhino conservation program or harvested it legally to export that horn and to sell it. It's been a contentious issue for a long time. Some conservationists found that they'd sort of inadvertently created a huge stockpile of horn. At the same time, they're battling to fund the conservation of the rhino. One of the people who's been involved in this for a long time is Dr. Derek Leviton. He had previously been charged with the unlawful possession of rhino horn. Those charges had been previously withdrawn. That was before Friday's ruling, which in fact involved another conservationist. Derek is in our studio now. Derek, good evening. Thanks so much for coming in. I imagine for you, in a way, Friday's ruling is a vindication. It strengthens the argument that rhino horn should be sold.
Hi, Stephen. Good evening. Good evening to your listeners. First thing I have to say, which is completely inappropriate, is that my wife tells me if I don't say on air that I love her very, very much, I will be sleeping on the couch. So I love my wife very, very much.
Never can tell what's going to happen on the Money Show.
It's more than just a random vindication. I was intimately involved in this case. This case is the reason that I was arrested. because as this case drew close to trial, the government got nervous about the case they had in opposition and how weak that was. And the easiest way to address that was to jail me on trumped-up charges. And they were, as you mentioned, indeed dropped on the 13th of August. They were a fraud from the start to the finish. This case is critical because, as you mentioned, it allows those of us who have invested everything we have, our lives, our income, in saving the rhinos. It gives us a path to fund that. It ushers in a sustainable method of conservation where conservation can pay for itself instead of begging at the doorstep every time that corporates come around or asking the public to fund our work. I do want to emphasize that this is not our idea. We took the government to court because their obstruction of this trade was illegal, and we wanted to compel them to honor CITES and South African law, and that's what was ruled on Friday. But the idea itself is over 40 years old. It was pioneered by giants in conservation, the CEO of the Natal Parks Board, Dr. George Hughes, Ian Player, Dr. Ian Player, everybody knows who he is, giants of rhino conservation. And these are the guys who had been asking for legal trade as the means to save the rhinos for a long time.
Okay, so when you talk about CITES, CITES are the international treaties, the international agreements under which all of this is managed.
Correct.
Under those agreements, this is legal.
Absolutely. Under those agreements, there's an exemption carved out for those of us involved in what is called conservation breeding operations, where we breed rhinos, or it can apply to other species as well, for the benefit of the species. And to encourage us to do that and to help us fund those efforts, there are exemptions baked into CITES that allow us to trade. The government was obstructing that. The court has opened the doors.
There are lots of arguments, and as you've expressed, some of them that would allow rhino horn to be sold. But one of the arguments against it is that you essentially keep the market going, right? There's certain people in certain places who think that it, gives them what Viagra would give them. And as a result of that, that's one of the reasons that there's such a high price for it. The idea is if you kill the supply, over time you'll eventually kill the market. You clearly have a different view. Why?
Well, 40 years have shown us that approach doesn't work, quite simply. Up until 2009, domestic sales in South Africa were legal, and there was no poaching in South Africa. The poaching numbers were 1 rhino, 2 rhinos a year. In 2009, the government illegally imposed a moratorium, and that number shot through the roof. And almost instantly, overnight, we went to about 1,600 rhinos dead a year. We're now down, the government claims, to about 400 a year. But that slaughter has continued while this moratorium supposedly has been in place. The international, the mythology of this international ban has been in place since 1975, and it's done the rhinos no favors. We've seen numbers decline steadily. So we've tried that approach. And we've ridiculed and denigrated Asian consumption. It's not actually Viagra. It's typically, from what I understand, mothers of kids with fevers that believe it will abate the fever, and they're willing to try that. So we've tried to convince people not to use it. That hasn't worked. This market continues. We can choose a market structure that rewards those who slaughter our rhinos while we try to protect them, or we can choose a model that rewards those of us who protect them. The court on Friday said the latter is the better option.
There are all sorts of things here. I mean, it seems strange to me for a government to say you're not allowed to keep rhino, remove and therefore protect the species, remove their horns safely while they're under anesthetic, even though it doesn't harm them because it's effectively like fingernail. And at the same time, you are allowed, under South African law, as I understand it, to raise a lion for the purposes of selling its being hunted. I mean, that would seem to be, if you're going to argue as government that one must be illegal, then so must the other.
There are a number of contradictions baked into South African policy. For one, you can hunt rhinos, you can kill them legally and export the horn if you've shot the animal dead. So why would we not want to export horn from an animal that is alive and healthy in the field and creating more rhinos? So that's a contradiction. I think it's important for your public to understand we do trim the horn as a standard practice. It keeps the animals from hurting each other. Rhinos are very violent creatures. If you want to grow the numbers, you want to diminish the interspecies violence. So we trim the horns. It keeps them from killing each other. We are, and that's repeatable. It's painless, and the horn grows back. So we trim every year, every 2 years. And this renewable commodity that's accumulating in storerooms could be sold instead of the animals being poached. The government says 400 animals were poached last year. That equates to about 2 tons of rhino horn. We trim 14 tons a year in Southern Africa, and we have over 100 tons in storage. We could swamp the market. As it is, the court case allows us to send the 2 tons that are being poached into Asian markets and to displace that poached product. And that's a start.
Where is this 100 tons of rhino horn being kept? I mean, obviously under lock and key. I don't expect a GPS coordinate, but who's looking after it is really my question.
Well, some of it was in my safe the night the police came to arrest me on trumped-up charges, so they've got about 30 kilos of mine. But it's kept in vaults. We're required to subject it to inspections on a regular basis, and we have to have permits, and we have to declare to government where it is. So the horn product that is privately owned, I'm confident, is still in the vaults. The material that is supposed to belong to government has slipped out the back door over years.
We're not the only country in Southern Africa with rhinos. We are the biggest one, I suppose. What's the situation in other countries that literally border us?
Well, the only one with significant populations is Namibia, and they've done quite well up to date in protecting their rhinos, but the poaching scourge is starting to emerge there as well as our numbers start to get depleted. Botswana has negligible quantities. Eswatini buys 100 rhinos every couple of years from South Africa, and then they get poached out. So it's really just us in Namibia.
Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Derek Leviton is a rhino conservationist, as you can hear from his story, intimately involved in this issue. Your thoughts on that on 011 8830702, 021 4460567, voice notes on 072 702 1702.
The Money Show.
The markets.
Tana Mongwe is a portfolio manager at Macro Solutions at the Old Mutual Investment Group. Tana, good evening. Quite a strong update, I thought, from Redefine, the CEO, quite bullish.
Good evening, Stephen, and good evening to your listeners. Yes, I mean, Redefine had a solid update, and you can actually even see so with the share price performance during the day. And I think we spoke a lot with the CEO on South Africa, and we've seen a good turn in South African numbers, strong occupancy, etc. Strong recovery since COVID levels. But I think, they've got a well-diversified portfolio, but that Gauteng market just still remains a risk. But what's quite nice about Redefine is their global optionality, the international optionality, and we're seeing that turn within Poland, just general recovery in the Poland market, but also management initiatives in terms of driving cost savings that's just improved on operating margins. So overall, I think it was a solid result from the property group.
Also a story about how if you invest in technology, clearly for them on their version, it's paying them back.
Absolutely. I think we've been seeing a lot of companies investing in tech, in scale, etc. But I think with Redefine, it's not just technology, it's also just technology in terms of, renewable energy, which you actually also starting to see that impact positively on their profitability. So just how you allocate capital as a company, and we're seeing that as shareholders in terms of returns.
Pepkor, they had a very strong update to date. I noticed they were up and one or two of their competitors were down.
Pepkor had a very good result. I think momentum from the H1 carrying on into the second half results. We're seeing, they're expecting to print 10 to 20% earnings growth with their annual results. And I think the star of the show is fintech. As opposed to the core business, which is just clothing and household appliances, etc. High single-digit growth, but revenue growth above 30% in the fintech business, which was quite solid. And we like Pepkor. It's a highly defensive retailer. They've got strong market positions in that kids entry level segment, and they're growing in that adult segment as well. And they've got a strong national footprint, investing quite well, great capital allocation, good returns. Again, just a good management team investing quite well, and we're seeing it in the numbers.
And then Altron, Netstar was the standout for them.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, Altron share price performance was quite disappointing, despite the platforms business doing quite well. So Netstar and once again fintech doing quite well. We the services business and the distribution business where there was a bit of a profitability hit. So read through from the results, it's just that corporate SA and the public sector has sort of put up the handbrake on IT expenditure, and we don't know how long that's gonna carry on. But they did have a good increase in the dividend, which speaks to, I suppose, management's view of the future and their confidence in the overall business and capital allocation. They spoke to a little bit about strategic investments into the future. So it's one definitely to see where that ends up. But unfortunately, that IT services businesses and the distribution, that was a tough one.
Tana Mongwe, thanks very much indeed. Portfolio Manager at Macro Solutions at the Old Mutual Investment Group. Bringing the time to 6:30. Time for the latest Eyewitness News. Maki Malapo, good evening to you. The SA Police Union on police corruption.
That's right, Stephen. The South African Police Union says allegations of widespread police corruption are painting the entire police rank and file in bad light. Good evening. SAPU, which has more than 80,000 members, says the claims of police corruption that are before two investigative inquiries has resulted in low morale among its members who work with communities. SAPU's second vice president, Peter Ntsime, came to the defense of lower-ranking officers while making inputs on the annual report of the South African Police in Parliament today. Ntsime says criticism of the police should be more constructive.
Those who are engaging with communities on a daily basis is that constable. Those who are being told that the police are corrupt are the one that does not know even the Ket Matlala. They only see him on the television. But they are the one faced with those words that your police officers are corrupt. These are our members. It affects their morale.
Public Works and Infrastructure Department officials are meeting with Zulu monarch King Misuzulu Kazulitini. Among the items on the agenda is establishing a partnership to protect infrastructure projects in KwaZulu-Natal. Minister Dean McPherson says cooperation with traditional leadership will play a major role in addressing criminal elements that also affect their work.
Particularly around protecting infrastructure projects, around our social facilitation framework, which is key to getting new projects on track and fighting back against the construction mafia, and traditional leaders play an important role in that.
McPherson says they're also briefing the King on other projects.
We also want to present some of the reforms that we're doing in EPWP, which is important in rural communities, like the one that we're in Nongoma today. So it's a good opportunity to not only meet with His Majesty, but to affirm our commitment to traditional leadership and to partnerships, which is critical to achieving our successes.
Staying in KwaZulu-Natal, the DA in the province says while the government of Provincial Unity Coalition has been working well, there are challenges and obstacles that need to be addressed. GPU partners are set to meet and discuss a way forward for the KwaZulu-Natal government tomorrow. The IFP, ANC, DA and NFP-led coalitions are experiencing troubles after the NFP expressed no confidence in the arrangement. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
Following the NFP stance, which threatened the KwaZulu-Natal coalition government, the parties have now resolved to meet and chart a way forward tomorrow. The DA says there are a number of issues it wants addressed. Party KZN chairperson Dean McPherson says they will not mince their words.
We've been quite clear that the parties of the government must be meeting regularly, and they don't.
McPherson says political differences among the GPU partners must also be addressed.
And I think that's where we have to start. I think there are also obviously tensions between political parties that don't necessarily have anything to do with the government.
It is still unclear whether or not the NFP will pull out of the coalition, but the party says it will only stay on condition major changes are made in the provincial executive. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Nongoma.
And the SPCA is warning of rabies among Cape Fur seals. The viral infection is fatal if untreated, and the organization warns anyone bitten or scratched to rinse the wound and seek immediate medical care. On Thursday, a surfer was attacked by a seal in Bloubergstrand while in the water. The Cape of Good Hope's SPCA Belinda Abraham urges beachgoers to stay vigilant.
Approaching or disturbing seals is illegal, but now with rabies still endemic in our Cape Fur seal population, it's dangerous. Please do not touch, feed, or try and take selfies with seals. Keep children and dogs away and leave the water if there's a seal in close proximity.
Look at your weather. A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 15 and 16 degrees and peak at highs between 20 and 22 degrees. A partly cloudy start for Cape Town. Otherwise, it's clear skies tomorrow, along with fresh southerly winds at a low of 15 and a high of 25 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News: the South African Police Union says allegations of widespread police corruption are painting the entire police rank and file in bad light.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, in the Sunwood Park area, heading towards Brakpan, we still have roadworks causing heavy delays. This is on the N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City. Also, bumper traffic. In the Calvin Alex area, this is traveling towards Germiston. Roadworks also slowing down traffic. This is on the N3 southbound between the Batuin Interchange and London Road, while in the Mother City, expect some delays still. M5 northbound approaching Berkeley Road, slow-moving traffic. N2 outbound between Marlborough Main and Airport Approach. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Beyond every boardroom is a story waiting to be written. A story of a business and its potential, of a community that thrives, a hospital that serves, and energy that powers millions of dreams. It's a story that only gets better with a partner that has the expertise and solutions to make it a reality. At ABSA CIB, we are invested in your story, and we invite you to write it with us, because your story matters. ABSA, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
I'm Samela Kilboy, an actress and mom to 3 lovely kids. I worry about how sugar can make them sick. Drinking sugary drinks could lead to diabetes, heart disease, and obesity as they get older. Diabetes is one of the top causes of death in South Africa. I'm joining the fight to demand government puts our health ahead of greedy industry profits. Government must act now. Increase the health promotion levy on sugary drinks. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
Who says everyday driving can't be très chic? Rent premium with Sani 60 now. Own the stylish Citroen C3 later. Yes, that's 3 cars, 3 months, 3 chances to say ooh la la. Just book directly on sani.co.za. Call us or rent at any branch between 1 November and 31 January, and you're automatically entered into the draw. Bon voyage with Sani Sixt and win. T's and C's apply.
WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
So 3.9 hectares of land in Sandton, literally on top of the Gautrain station. It's up for grabs. There'll be an auction. We'll speak to the person auctioning it in about half an hour from now. What do you think the land should be used for?
Hi, Stephen. My suggestion for the open space would be something like a central park or a big park where people can just walk about and just be out of the shopping centers, man. We need a place where people sell ice creams, etc.
Good day, 702 lenders. Good day, 702 lenders. Elvis from Midrand. I think Sandton would like an outdoor theme park for the kids. I think it would be a good idea. Just an outdoor open plan. Yeah.
Okay, so everything so far is outdoor. No one's with me on the helipad or the hot air balloon park. That's fine. I thought a public swimming pool could be quite useful too. But there is clearly a sense of something outdoor. It is a big piece of land. There's a lot you could do with it. I understand the urge to make money, but I think you could probably do that outdoor somehow. Your thoughts? What would you do with that piece of land in Sandton?
EWN Sport.
Tolekele, you could probably fit a cricket oval in there if you designed it right.
You definitely could, but I'd go for like one of those picnicky set-up sort of bar areas overlooking Sandton. It looks very nice from like up there. and we look so cute. You get off the Gau train, you just go upstairs and you have a drink with your friend.
Indeed. And I mean, a lot of people have suggested a sort of central park.
Yes.
It's where you go. You can go on the train. There are lots of different things. There's certainly something to it.
Absolutely.
Still, last night.
We have to talk about it, Stephen. We have to talk about it. And the Proteas women will arrive back home tomorrow. That's after their runner-up finish at the ODI World Cup. Captain Lara Waldpad finished as the tournament's leading run scorer with 571 runs, while Marazan Cup became the leading wicket taker in Women's World Cup history with 44. Waldpad scored 101 off 98 balls for her second straight century as South Africa lost by 52 runs to India.
ODI cricket has sort of come a long way in this tournament. I think, to win games, you've got to be nice and positive and nice and aggressive, and I've really tried to sort of explore that a bit in this tournament. I think it hasn't been my best year in ODI cricket, was maybe a bit too conservative or one-dimensional, so really happy with the different options that I was able to bring in throughout this tournament.
Kaizer Chiefs have been drawn with Zamalek in the Confederation Cup group phase and will also take on Al Masri and Zesco United in Group D, Stellenbosch in Group C and will be up against Chabab Belouizdad, Otto and Singada Black Stars. In the Champions League, Mamelodi Sundowns will be reunited with their former coach Rulani Mokoena after they were drawn to face MC Alger in Group C. Other teams in their pool include Al Hilal and St. Eloi Lupopo, who of course defeated Orlando Pirates in the second preliminary round. And speaking of the Buccaneers, Adeslam Adu says after the game he had no hesitation in fielding Cameron Dunson. That's after he scored a contender of goal for the season in their draw against Sundowns in the Betway Premiership.
You have to be careful not to burn this kind of potential. So you have to bring them step by step. It's why you have seen that I give them sometimes 15, 20, 30 minutes, 60 minutes just to make him comfortable. It was the right moment for him today against one of the best team in the continent. It's like a bird. If you don't give him the opportunity to fly, you have to throw him from the tree to learn, and that's what we did.
New Zealand captain Scott Barrett and his brother Geordie are both doubts for Saturday's test against Scotland. That's after being forced off early in the All Blacks win over Ireland. For the Springboks, they've backed Asanathi Ntlabaganye after calling him up ahead of Saturday's Autumn Nations Series clash with France. Ntlabaganye replaces the injured Oxen Chair in his first call-up since testing positive for a non-performance enhancing substance in August. The Boks will come into that clash on the back of a 61-7 win over Japan, a clash in which Kurtley Arendse was named man of the match.
I think it was a great collective effort. Forwards put in the hard work, and we as backs always look fancy on the side, but I think it was a great collective effort, and just happy we could start before the autumn series start well.
Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
Sana, she said that till slip is like the N1 highway. It's long. Thanks, Captain Obvious. I got it. It's why I got the new discount battery rewards card that gets me 10% off instantly on over 140 brands. And then, does he not tell me over 140 brands means thousands of products? Exactly. That's why your discount till slip never look better. Inshallah, son.
Hey, Laura.
The unmistakable voice of jazz and soul returns to South Africa, Gregory Porter. Join the two-time Grammy Award winner for 3 intimate performances now at Teatro Monte Casino on the 20th, 21st and 22nd of November. Don't miss one of the greatest voices of our time, Gregory Porter, live. Book now at showtime.co.za.
Small businesses are anything but small. They're the backbone of our communities, the dreamers, the doers, the ones who keep Mzansi moving forward. That's why 702 and Capitec Business Banking are putting them in the spotlight. Every Thursday between 6 and 8 p.m., catch Small Business Focus with Capitec, where we showcase the hustle, heart, and the secrets to thriving in today's economy. Your vision matters, and with Capitec, you're never building it alone. Small Business Focus with Capitec, the business bank for everyone. Thursdays between 6 and 8 p.m. on 702. Capitec Bank is an authorized FSP 46669.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes.
Well, still messages coming through about that piece of land, actually. Alexei, he seems to be an architect. He says, I don't know of a single Joburg architect that hasn't at some point proposed a program for the site. We actually suggested a mixed-use cultural development would make the most sense, given the incomparable accessibility and centrality of the site. A large multi-purpose theatre, a major art gallery, and performance art spaces. The city's in dire need of these types of infrastructure because no one goes into the CBD. Alexei, that's a really interesting idea, actually. A proper, kind of almost like a sort of council space. You could have all sorts of things. So if you think, for example, the area around the New York City Library, I mean, the New York Library's been in more superhero movies than almost anyone else, simply because of everything that's around there. You could do all sorts of things with that. As you say, move the Johannesburg Art Gallery there and basically make it a community site. There's something in that, Alexei. I have a sneaking feeling, though, that capitalism's going to win this one.
702. Stephen is on X.
At Stephen Grootes.
Well, the IT group Eltron confirming their headline earnings for the 6 months to the end of August, up by 22%. A strong contribution from the tracking service Netstar. The fintech section is growing strongly too, but Eltron is reporting muted investment by companies for its Eltron digital business unit. Despite that, the interim dividend's up by 20%. Werner Kapp is the CEO at Eltron. Werner, good evening, and thanks for your time tonight. Your Netstar service still growing very strongly. Subscribers up by 11%. Where is that demand coming from?
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me on the show. I think the demand really is because of kind of specific investments we've made in this business over the last 3 years, particularly in what we call our big data as a service, which is really enhancing our telematics offering to different types of fleet enterprises. I think we saw about 16% growth in that enterprise business, and we're still growing our consumer business in South Africa nicely by about 8%. The majority of the double-digit subscriber growth that you've seen is really coming from our South African business. So I think the business continues to perform very well in South Africa, and I'm obviously biased, but I'd like to think it's because we're delivering good service and value to our customers at a competitive price.
I mean, when you think of a vehicle tracker, your first thought is often about crime, but you're talking about all sorts of other services, fleet management services. Where is this car now? How long will it take to get here and drop that off? Where is my teenager now, and when is the car coming back? Is there much more value you can add in those services?
Yes. That's actually an excellent question, Stephen. That's absolutely what we are doing. I mean, the business very much started, to your point, as a stolen vehicle recovery business, focused on protecting and recovering that asset, and that's now really moving into the fleet space, as you've said, which is managing fleets more optimally. Also, asset tracking. So what we're finding, particularly in the case of large fleets, sometimes the assets, the cargo within the fleet, is actually more valuable. So we're moving into asset tracking. We've just launched 2 products. I mean, one that we think is fairly revolutionary when it comes to asset tracking, and we're also taking a product to market. Currently, it's in beta testing, and I'm not joking. I'm using it with my teenagers, so we can help solve that for you. I mean, unfortunately, the reality is that some of the challenge in the country has gone beyond just theft, into things like hijacking, and we're continuing coming up with solutions to help combat that.
No, I mean, I look forward to how that progresses. Your Eltron digital business unit, they had a difficult time. You described it as a muted IT investment environment. Why do you think it's so muted?
Look, I think firstly, if you look at, remember our business has got the 2 segments, right? The platform business, I mean, that's the businesses that's been, going great guns, going by double digit. That's, for example, where that Netstar and fintech business sits. Then our IT services segment, security, Eltron digital business, and document solutions. If you look at that sector across the board, and I think you probably see that with most of our competitors as well, I mean, those businesses are really subject to largely capital expenditure by customers, and demand for that's really been low for quite a while now, and I think that's just a result of constrained growth in the economy. ADB business has been hit hardest by that of those businesses, and obviously we're not sitting on our hands. We're taking some corrective action to fix it.
I would have thought that with all of the sort of cyber threats around, people need to spend more money on IT systems, not less. Not all of that would be infrastructure, obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at our security business, so that's the business that really focuses on that. I mean, they've had a good performance despite despite the declines in the market. I mean, that business top line we grew by about 2%, and we made significant profit in that business, and I think we've kind of kept our EBITDA margins flat year on year. So absolutely, but I mean that focus comes from our security business.
Your AI division still relatively new. How much demand are you seeing for that?
Early indications are really positive. I mean, that's something we're exceptionally proud about. I mean, we actually take that to market through our Altron Digital business, because customers can consume those services in two ways, either directly using the large language models or use our professional services in Altron Digital business. I mean, to answer your question simply, since we launched, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, I mean, demand's been fantastic.
Do you know at this stage what companies want AI to actually do for them? Is it about changing the service they can provide? Is it just about improving what's going on, at the back end? Do you get a sense of actually knowing this is what companies want AI to do for them? I mean, there must be some who are doing it because they know everybody else is.
I would say primarily what we're seeing, Stephen, is two things. Number one, is to serve their customers better. I mean, these days, I would get the statistics wrong, but I think the majority of your interactions that you're having with large-scale service providers are through AI, through chatbots, and I think what that really does, and where our AI factory, I think, particularly adds a lot of value is that it brings a lot of local language context. So it really helps pick up, sort of sentiment analysis, gives an opportunity for somebody to be serviced in their first language. So I think customer service, and then of course the other part is really, sort of productivity gains and trying to manage their business better. I don't know that I've seen that much from a productivity gain perspective, but definitely, if I think of how we deploy AI within our business, the ability in which it's able to process information and then with generative AI actually give you outputs from that. I would see those are the kind of two major things. There's some cases in where people use AI to create entirely new business models, but probably the first two are the biggest use cases of AI that we're seeing in corporate South Africa and in small, medium enterprises.
Werner Kapp, thanks very much indeed. Really appreciate the time. CEO of Altron, 9 minutes to 7.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actis-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
What do partners of the Gates Foundation do when facing the world's toughest challenges? They keep going. From discovering a plastic drape that helps detect excessive postpartum bleeding faster, to developing better bed nets to kill malaria-carrying mosquitoes, to researching an RSV vaccine that could save hundreds of thousands of children. For every problem, there are people who prove that progress is possible. The Gates Foundation, partners of human potential. Learn more at gatesfoundation.org/keep going.
In a world where a lot can change in 6 years, you can rest assured knowing that Hino's 6-year drivetrain warranty won't. All Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, protecting your investment all the way from pistons to gears. Built to keep your business moving, supporting uptime, growth and daily operations, because although a lot can change in 6 years, their warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, advancing Red Rocket's ambitions with Discovery Green as the off-taker to power Africa's future through affordable, renewable energy.
7 minutes now to 7 the time. Well, confirmation now that Cheslin Jacobs will be taking over as the CEO of Time Bank from the 1st of January. Carl Westvik will still be in the building, as it were, offering advice, but Jacobs will be the person in charge. The incoming CEO of Time Bank, Cheslin Jacobs, is on the line for you now. Cheslin, good evening. Congratulations. You must be looking forward to the new job.
Yeah, good evening, Stephen. Thanks for having me. Yeah, absolutely. It's a business that's dear to me. It's a business I've grown up in. So extremely honored to have this privilege.
As you say, you've been part of Time since it started. What do you think the next challenge is? I suppose what I'm really asking is, what do you think it needs to do and what you need to do in the next phase of Time?
Yeah, so great question, and thanks for that, Stephen. So I think we've proven our ability to scale the business in rapid time. You know, we serve just under 12 million customers today. But we operate in an extremely competitive industry. You know, banking has matured in South Africa. But for the longest time, there was very, very few material players. I think in more recent times, there's been a few more additions, and I think we're expecting a few more to come over the shorter term. But that's all very exciting. And the reality is that we now live in a market where customers are predominantly multi-banked. And I think what the fight for is larger share of wallet. And I think that fight's no different for us. But if you ask me, I think we must probably best positioned to capitalize on that going forward.
I mean, where do you think then the sort of competitive advantage for a bank is? Where's the fight going to be? Is it going to be in sort of ease of banking? So, you know, are you going to gamify the app? Please don't, Cheslin. Or is it going to be on, you know, the best sort of low loan rates or something like that?
Yeah, so we think it's several different factors. I think the most important thing is that with technology and AI on the rise is that it's going to be very, very difficult, I think, to compete on feature functionality. I think the ability for competitors to catch up on those things are only going to become easier and easier. And that for a long time has set us apart from competition. It's just our ease of use, our limited friction in accessing what we offer. But I think going forward, Stephen, the biggest differentiator and most probably characteristic of success will be customer experience and in essence how your customers feel about you. And as a business, we've been investing quite heavily in our customer experience behind the scenes, and I think our customers can expect some really, really good improvements to come in the not too distant future that will fundamentally change the experience with the bank.
You're one of the first to sort of be, I mean, kind of a virtual bank. You don't really have a physical presence. I presume that's how it's going to be. I mean, nothing really needs to change there.
Spot on, and we think that's the future of banking, and South Africa historically has always been somewhat of a lag economy, call it that, from a behavior perspective. If you just look around the world, some of the biggest banking players today, and you look at the business models they employ, it's identical to ours. And one of our shareholders out from Brazil, Nubank, if you just look at what they're doing in their core markets, if you look at what that business is valued at today, it's clear that that's the future. And again, we're well positioned to capitalize on that. As consumers change their behavior, I'd like to believe we're in the best position again to be the ultimate beneficiary thereof.
You talk about the vast majority of people are multi-bank. They're with more than one bank. You spoke about 12 million customers. Do you see banks aiming for certain segments of the market? So Discovery aiming for this segment, Old Mutual aiming for that segment, Bank Zero going there? Or do you think everyone's going to be competing with everyone? Because that obviously is going to make it harder. Then it becomes much harder to differentiate yourself.
Yes, I actually think the way the country should move is that everybody should compete with everybody, and because the biggest beneficiary of that is the end user. And ultimately, Stephen, you as a customer, when you're the beneficiary of that kind of competition, one should believe that what you're getting is more value than you've ever gotten before, because that's the only way we're going to end up differentiating ourselves. So we believe, again, we're best positioned to deliver the most value to our customers. And like I said earlier, one of our biggest weapons really going into the future is going to be customer experience, and we're making the necessary investments behind the scenes to ensure that we end up head and shoulders above the rest.
I mean, one of the big advantages you will have, and one or two of the other newer banks will have, is that your IT infrastructure is basically cutting edge. Now, obviously, that's going to get harder and harder. There are more new entrants, and they'll be coming in after you did, and that makes your job harder.
Yeah, it definitely does. But again, as call it a digital first business, we're very aware of that, and we keep our own infrastructure and architecture very, very up to date. It's one of the things in our business that also attracts some of the most talented young engineers, because we're always playing with the newest, smartest, slickest technology. So I think that excites people as well. But like you said, we know that other people can come in and potentially be the same disruptor we were when we entered the market. And we're very conscious about that. So again, we put the things in place to make sure we continue pushing the boundaries both internally and obviously what we offer to our customers.
Cheslin Jacobs, thanks very much indeed. Really appreciate it. The incoming CEO at Time Bank.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes.
More suggestions coming through on the WhatsApp line about what to do with that piece of land in Sandton. We'll speak to the person who is auctioning it off in a few minutes. But NERSA, I see, over the weekend, well, actually on Friday, lost a case in the High Court around what they have to disclose to you. This is about councils. And you'll recall that NERSA, the energy regulator, had actually argued in court that the council in which you live had no obligation to tell you what it was paying Eskom for the electricity you consumed. In other words, it didn't have to tell you how much of a profit it was making on the electricity it was selling you. I said at the time that that was insane. That's not how the Constitution works. The council is a public body. There's no competitiveness here. Essentially, the judge has agreed with all of that and thrown it out. It was just never going to fly. What I hope for, NERSA, if you are at all listening, is please don't bother appealing. It will be embarrassing to have this confirmed. And frankly, if you ask an advocate to stand up and make that argument again, that we, as ordinary people, should not have the right to know what our council is paying for electricity, you should be embarrassed. You're with The Money Show, 7 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening, I'm Maki Malapo. The city of Johannesburg has denied allegations that it has been targeting informal traders following the removal of those operating outside designated areas. Nearly a month has passed since the city began evicting hawkers who were selling goods without the required municipal permits. Today, the Gauteng High Court ordered the city to expedite the process of verifying informal traders and assigning them proper stalls. The Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa took the city to court, arguing that the evictions infringed on traders' rights to earn a living. Acting Johannesburg Mayor Eunice Mnina has emphasized that the CBD must be cleaned, which includes regulating the informal trading sector.
We are cleaning Johannesburg for their interests because we want to get them in order. They must have permits. We are doing this for them and we want to assure our residents that this is done on their behalf. We intend to do good things for them and nothing else. And we want them to work with us as a city so that we can achieve what we want to achieve.
Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia says the Madlanga Commission and Parliament's ad hoc committee investigations will give the police an opportunity to reset. Kachalia says the two inquiries are raising the right questions and will help expose the root cause of the problems in the police. Today, Kachalia was briefing Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee on the police's annual report. Babalo Ndenze has more.
Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia says the question of whether the South African Police Service is in crisis is one that needs to be examined carefully. He says while the police have achieved consecutive unqualified audits, he says corruption remains a problem. Kachalia says the two inquiries will help give the police a chance to start over.
It will present us with a difficult moment. I think it provides us with an opportunity to reset. Many of the issues that were raised in the committee today are precisely the right ones that will require attention going forward.
He says this must also address the low morale in the police.
For any reset, we have to rebuild the morale and confidence of those middle ranks.
Kachalia will be back in Parliament to give evidence before the ad hoc committee investigating police corruption after Deputy Minister Polibo Shielo tomorrow. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
The site of the tragic George building collapse is going under the hammer 18 months after 34 construction workers were killed. 28 other artisans were seriously injured when a 5-story building collapsed, burying 62 people under 6,000 tons of rubble in May last year. A report by the Council for the Built Environment found that the developer, the contractor and the engineer were responsible. The developer, Neo Victoria Developments, is under liquidation. Ntutuzela Nene has more.
A bidding war for the ownership of 75 Victoria Road in George will take place online between 12 noon on Tuesday, 25 November and 12 noon on Wednesday, 26 November. Vans Auctioneers CEO Martin Pretorius says the site is valued at 12 million rand but is expected to sell for 6 to 7 million rand. Pretorius says it's regrettable that the site is a reminder of a tragic incident, but it's valuable and with a great location.
The fact that there was a tragedy on the property is a sad case. We all know the history. Punchline is we're selling a site. Maybe it's too soon to rebuild, but once again, that's an emotional question.
He adds that the site is a great development opportunity for residential flats within the CBD and walking distance for public transport. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News.
The Basic Education Department has stressed that the withholding of children's school reports is unlawful and unacceptable. This follows reports that parents at some no-fee schools in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape have been required to make donations of up to 1,500 rand or face the possibility of their children being refused access to class or their reports. The department's Terence Khala says the issue is worrying.
I think it's something that has affected many parents, especially at a time of the year as we approach learner reports being issued. I think the department's position is very clear. I mean, no learner should be disadvantaged or should have their report withheld because their parents or guardian cannot afford to make a payment.
Khala confirms the schools involved are no-fee paying schools and may not charge compulsory school fees.
What is allowed is for schools to be able to conduct fundraising and to raise voluntary donations to be able to support the school, and obviously in an understanding where the fees are not charged at the school. This then augments the supplementary payments that are given to the school. But this should never be punitive or coercive in its nature. It should be voluntary, and it should be something that is done out of the good nature of that parent.
And energy regulator NERSA says it's studying the judgment handed down by the North Gauteng High Court, which found its approval of municipal tariffs without proper public participation and cost studies is unconstitutional. Last Friday, the court also issued a rule nisi stipulating that NERSA and any other respondent should convince the court why the ruling should not be final by November 18th. Chief applicant AfriForum welcomed the judgment. Spokesperson Deirdre Stephens says NERSA will have to comply with to give consumers a fair say regarding municipal tariff increases.
This is not only a victory for AfriForum and its members, but for every person who pays for electricity. This ruling ensures that NERSA and municipalities cannot pull the wool over consumers' eyes.
Gold's trading at $4,008.51 an ounce. The rand's at 17.30 to the dollar, at 22.74 to the pound, at 19.94 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $65.11 a barrel.
Traffic in the mother city, expect heavy delays N1 outbound. This is between the foreshore and Plattekloof. There's also bumper-to-bumper traffic N2 outbound between Mowbray Main and Airport Approach. Slow-moving traffic M5 northbound approaching Barkley Road.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow with afternoon isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Both Joburg and Pretoria will drop to overnight lows of 15 degrees and peak at highs of 20. Vereniging at 16 and 22. A partly cloudy start for Cape Town. Otherwise, it's clear skies tomorrow along with fresh southerly winds at a low of 15 and a high of 25 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The city of Johannesburg has denied allegations that it has been targeting informal traders following the removal of those operating outside designated areas.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, advancing Red Rocket's ambitions with Discovery Green as the off-taker to power Africa's future through affordable, renewable energy. Well, 8 minutes now after 7 the time. Good evening. I'm Stephen Grootes. Plenty to come. And we'll actually hear from the person who is auctioning off that piece of land in Sandton that we've been talking about. So many suggestions coming through, a couple more to look at. We'll speak to someone we haven't spoken to for a little while, actually, a regular on the show. Looking forward to seeing Ian Mann again, our regular book reviewer. We're looking at a book by Steven Pinker. It's called Rationality, What It Is, Why It Seems Scarce, Why It Matters. Stephen Pinker, as you know, is, I suppose you would call him a sort of psychologist, a linguist in some ways, but really maps the ways in which our brains work. And then really looking forward to speaking to Tsepo Maklu, the international executive coach from 7:30. I've never had a coach. I've never used one. You might well be in that space. But it seems to me that it's an industry that is becoming busier and busier. People have all sorts of needs for it. And there might well be some growth coming in that industry. So I think that's very, very interesting. Good to hear from you as well on 011 883 0702 021 446 0567 and voice notes on 072 702 1702.
WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
Well, all through the show, we've been taking suggestions about what to do with the piece of land in Sandton. It's rare to have 3.9 hectares of land in Sandton. This is going up for auction. We'll speak to the auctioneer in just a moment, the person in charge of it. But first, more suggestions coming from you tonight.
I think if we have a big piece of land in Sandton, the biggest thing we could do to upset big business and politicians that profit off of hunger is to set up a vegetable garden to make free vegetables for citizens. Thank you.
Interesting idea, not one that I thought of actually. But we've had plenty of other suggestions. A mixed-use precinct. We've had, I suggested a hot air balloon park. I wasn't being entirely serious, but I'd still use it if it was there. Helipad, maybe, but all sorts of suggestions coming through for it. Well, Brol Auctions and Sales are the people who will be auctioning off this 3.9 hectares worth of land. Norman Raat is the CEO there. Norman, good evening. Describe this piece of land for me, please.
Good evening, Stephen, and thank you. Yes, so obviously an iconic site right adjacent to Nelson Mandela Square. You know, as you move through the library area, the land extends all the way through to the Gautrain, where the entrance of the Gautrain is. So it's, you don't get a vast piece of land of about 4 hectares in a metropolitan city throughout Africa, never mind Sandton City, which I believe is the capital of Africa.
That's an interesting comment. There are people in Cape Town listening, Norman. A lot of people have described it as on top of the Gautrain station. Do you mean physically on top or north?
Yeah. So a small portion of the land is above the Gautrain, and there's a servitude registered for the Gautrain, which is underneath. There's a limited development height above the Gautrain, but it's very small in comparison to the larger extent of the land. The land is, like I said, just under 4 hectares, so the vast part of the land has got unlimited rights, and it extends through up and adjacent to and across the road from Sandton City and all the way to link into Sandton Square.
So unlimited rights. You could put up a block of flats if you wanted. You could put up the world's biggest shopping centre if you wanted, because obviously Sandton needs another one of those.
So to be exact, the approved rights is for 200,000 square meters of bulk, which is a mixed-use development rights. So you could do offices, you could do hotels, you could do residential developments and some retail that kind of complements and extends through from the square. So yes, whether Sandton has that demand for that kind of development rights right now, which needs to be questioned, and I'm sure it doesn't, but in time it may possibly have that. But just a little bit of a history, we took this property to tender about 18 months ago. The highest tender price was 550 million, and unfortunately the buyer, the highest buyer, didn't fulfill the obligations in terms of the agreement, and it's in liquidation, this piece of land, and the main creditors would like this to be gone, and that's hence we've taken it to auction. So it's definitely not going to be, I don't think, well I shouldn't say definitely, but I don't think it's going to reach anywhere near those levels. It's a lot more of a realistic sale, and we've got a lot more interest in the property this time round.
I would have to say, in the way that I know Sandton, and everyone will know it in different ways, and many people won't know it at all. But you probably will never get a piece of land of this size on sale again.
Well, there's just so much land that the good Lord can produce, and certainly not more than that in Sandton City. So Whoever takes away this land will have the most strategic, most iconic piece of property, I think, almost in South Africa and on the continent. Obviously, we've had some challenges with regards to property and development in the Gauteng area, but things are changing, and I think this could be that time when something like this, a new development on that site, could bring about, business and development and construction, and just like really trigger and spark something on the development side within Sandton City.
I was going to ask you a little bit about property, because obviously this won't be the only one that you do, but excuse me. But I mean, do you see signs in the way in which this auction goes might well be a sign that sort of Joburg is off the bottom?
Yeah, so we're very positive. I'm very positive. We've had some very difficult years. And over the last year, especially the last year, we've seen a lot of interest, a lot of demand, a lot of transactions. There's been a price correction, make no doubt about it, that we are at levels, especially on the residential side, but I'm talking mainly commercial. There's been basically, I think over the last 10 years, nothing really, there's been no increase in pricing, whether it's a bulk rate per square meter or just your GLA or your price per square meter. There's a lot of vacancy within the Sandton node. But saying that, I can tell you right now, there's a lot more activity at our auctions and a lot more is going on, and we're very excited about it. And I think this is definitely the bottom. I think got a lot to look forward to for next year, and with the interest rates possibly coming down further, I think it's going to bode well for the property sector.
And then for this property generally, I mean, it's got a bit of a complicated history. And when you have a big piece of land in one area, and it's sort of vacant, it can actually have an impact on the entire area around it. You have a positive development here, someone puts a lot of money into it, that has a very positive impact on everything around it.
Yeah, like I just mentioned, I think this could trigger something far greater than just a development on the site. I think this could spark something off around and all the properties around, and maybe there's some activity to come back into the Sandton area. We most certainly need it. It's been an eyesore for the area, and it hasn't been good for the industry. But, I think we as South Africans and as Valis or Gautengers, we're resilient and we'll bounce back. And I think South Africa is going to bounce back, especially in the property sector. We're very positive, and I don't want to sound like a salesperson, but we've seen the signs. We're at the auction where we're willing buyer and willing seller, and there's just a lot more buyers. And it's not just our auction business, but all the auction businesses have been very active and doing deals. So it's exciting times for, I think, property, and we'd like to see something really nice happening on that site.
Norman Raad, thanks very much indeed. CEO of Brol Auctions and Sales. All right, some more optimism there. You heard Redefine talking about optimism a few moments ago, half an hour ago, about what they're expecting, actually an hour ago now, what they're expecting to happen. There are some signs, if you look at some of the news flow that we've seen over the last few days, maybe the president's big meeting with leaders of the parties in the National Coalition might be a part of that. Be very interested in your feelings about confidence right now on 072 702 1702. Coming up next, I'm not joking, rationality.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
Time. When you're a kid, it moves slower than a sloth trying to get through airport security. There is just so much of it. Skip forward a few years to your 20s. Time is still your friend. It says have some balance. Go party and have fun. Then your 30s hit. And time suddenly steps on the accelerator like it's trying to catch a traffic light before it goes red. 40s. Now time is moving faster than your 10-year-old on a sugar high. 50. You're desperately trying to save as much as you can, but time is moving so fast. And all you can think is, where did all the time go? That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time for some much-deserved you time. Now, isn't that a compelling enough reason to invest? Ellen Gray. Long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Alarm goes off, but silently. And now you're late for everything. Leave. Cancel the day before you leave.
I knew it.
1 tick, 2 ticks, blue tick. Hectic.
Yeah, I'm going to need a mac and cheese.
Adulting is hard. Instead of curling up or crashing out, try the new Nando's mac and cheese with delicious cheesy bechamel sauce, topped with crispy peri crumble. Get it as a side with any meal or by itself, because you're just a baby.
The Money Show.
Business books.
Well, the book tonight is called Rationality, What It Is, Why It Seems Scarce, Why It Matters. It's by Stephen Pinker. Ian Mann is our regular book reviewer and MD at Gateways Business Consultants. Ian, good to see you again. Been a little while. Good evening. How does Stephen Pinker define rationality?
Fundamentally, he says the most important thing we can possibly do as humans. And the key always is we make such a mess. We're so illogical as humans. And we do so many things. It seems to point to the fact that perhaps this idea of a Homo sapiens, which means the smart hominin, is a bit of a misnomer. In fact, we're not all that bright. And what he does, he starts with a very interesting contrast. He looks at the Khoisan, and he looks at these people who've been living under harsh conditions for literally thousands of years, and they are very logical, rational people. They're not people who just throw spears at animals. They plan, they think, they use game theory. They use all sorts of not game animals, but the game theory. And scientists have shown how they really behave incredibly rationally, with the result that they've been able to survive for thousands of years under terrible conditions. So being rational is not a Western thing. It seems like it's a human thing. The question is, how can we have achieved so much? I mean, as humans, we're so smart. We can dump a huge ton of metal on the moon, on Mars, and go and drill and take out some sand. We can do amazing things. When we get back to Earth, we behave like complete idiots most of the time. And his whole thing is, why does that happen? And I think what's so nice about this book, what makes it so interesting, is that it doesn't have to be like that. And that for the most part, irrationality is something that it's almost like the lazy man's out. I'll give you what he does. He quotes a researcher who's been given type puzzles to people, and they look like they're mathematical, but they're not mathematical. They're logical. And even when he's given them he's done the study on thousands of university students, including MIT students who really think they're very mathematically gifted. Out of the 5 questions he gives them, they usually get about at least one wrong. Questions would be something like this. You've got 4 printers. They can print so many pages in this time. If you have 24 printers, how long will it take you to print exactly the same document, and how much time will that take? So, well, if 4 takes 2, multiply it by the division, and you come up with a number. The answer will be exactly the same. That takes us but a moment or two of thinking to be able to see that that's how it has to be. So he says that what happens with people, it's got nothing to do with intelligence. It has much more to do with the fact that we are impulsive and we don't make good decisions. And when you look at how we deal with time, we make very bad decisions in our lives because of impulse. There was a study done, a very famous study done with kids, where they gave them a marshmallow, the marshmallow test. And if you didn't eat it now, you could get another one later. Yes. Yeah. He says, we're like that all the time. And we don't save, which is really a safe thing to do, but we do gamble, where you're guaranteed to lose. So we do have all these irrational behaviors. And his whole thing is that it doesn't have to be that way.
So, I mean, in a way, it's about deferred consumption, which is really what the Money Show is about.
Indeed.
I've met some people and come across people and watched some people who I can see are very irrational, and I've found them intensely irritating. Ian.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
Indeed. I think that the rational, I think what happens with most people that we don't think we should be rational. I'll give you an example. In the United States, about 36% of people believe in haunted houses.
Yeah.
But only 32% believe in ghosts. Go
So,
figure.
yeah, where how does that
Then
work?
you have people who have a dream, and I saw somebody, my friend, and 2 days later I meet the person.
Yeah.
Dreams obviously have some truth in them. Well, all dreams, or the one by mistake that you remembered, or that you have now. Now people are terrified of tornadoes. I mean, and the thing about a tornado, it's photogenic.
Yeah.
The most dangerous thing, if you had to compare, which is more dangerous to you as a human being, asthma or tornado?
Yeah.
Asthma by about 25 times is more dangerous. But we're confused about these things. And if we only wanted to be more rational and think more rationally about things, we probably would come up with better examples. Better outcomes.
Does he explain why it seems scarce? And I mean, I'm interested in particularly this time. He wrote the book 4 years ago.
Yes.
But the dynamics that we're seeing, particularly in the US, were starting then.
I think that if you ask me in general why this happened, it happens through lots of different things, such as some things are photogenic, some aren't. Some things seem immediate, some aren't. Anything that we get used to, we don't worry too much about. So I think that we are easily deluded, and if the only way we can get out of that is making a commitment to wanting to be more rational. And since we don't have a desire to be more rational, the need is there. We just don't have a desire. I think we flip into something which isn't rational. And this is a species, and that's what's so nice about his example from the sand. Human beings are a smart bunch of people, naturally. We just have to learn. And by the way, there's lots of techniques in the book. If I give you one simple example, if you said there's a woman, she goes to protests all the time. Is she a nurse, or is she a socially conscious nurse? And most people say, clearly a socially conscious nurse, but not, because there are more nurses than there are socially conscious nurses.
Yes.
And if you didn't know who she is, rationality would say choose that. And there's all sorts of other interesting things, including morality. Morality, he shows, is also rational. I can't say, you may not hurt me, you may not hurt my children, and you must feed me, but I can hurt your children. I can not feed you and expect people to believe that. When we start thinking of rationality as a desideratum, I think that's why we'll become much more rational. And the book, I think, is an inspiration.
When you talk about impulse,
yes,
is that also why rationality, also known as saving,
yes,
is boring?
Yeah, if you look at this, time changes a lot of things.
Yeah,
and on the one hand, people say to you, look, if I eat healthy and it gives me extra years, I'm going to have extra years when I'm really old and I can't even enjoy it.
Yeah,
so big deal. So we have all sorts of good reasons not to be rational, and in my lifetime there were foods which we knew were bad for you. You shouldn't have eggs. You shouldn't have this. You shouldn't have that. And now they're good for you.
Yeah.
So the subtleties of these things are not obvious, and I think that the beauty of reading a book like this is you can see why it's important, but also you can see where the subtleties come in, and you can get around the subtleties. You're more likely to catch yourself saying or doing something irrational. We know for a fact, science has proven this, that the cleanest, safest form of energy known to mankind is nuclear power.
Yeah.
And if you look at how the nuclear disasters, well,
they're very photogenic.
They're very photogenic, and they don't kill people. They kill very, very, very. More people are killed in accidents, or by smoke, or in mining accidents, or by trucks delivering coal having accidents. Many more people are killed that way. But we don't think we need to be rational about all the decisions we make.
Fascinating. Thank you very much indeed for that, Ian. Ian Mann is our regular book reviewer, MD at Gateways Business Consulting. The book is called Rationality, What It Is, Why It Seems Scarce, Why It Matters by Stephen Pinkett. Appearing soon on a beach near you, 28 minutes after 7.
Coming up,
The Aubrey Masango Show
on 702
and Cape Talk.
Aubrey, rationality, yes, from 7:30?
Yeah, we're going to try. We're going to try. As you heard from Ian, it's a very rare commodity.
Yeah.
Rationality. Anyway, we're going to have a rational conversation with Bronwyn van Wyk, who's an audiologist, talking about hear loss in the first hour of the show. In the second hour of the show, some real efforts are being made to try and understand the creative sector as what it means to our economy. And there is going to be a international conference at the DHL Cape Town Stadium that is going to be looking into that. But the third hour is very interesting for me. Prince Mashele, a political analyst, joins me. And we're going to be talking about
Not a fan, eh?
I just saw that on your face. We're going to be talking about a recent Times Life article that revealed a startling finding that more than 300 councillors in KwaZulu-Natal were found to be functionally illiterate. We'll be finding out from him what this means in terms of governance. And then the final hour is an open line, and that's the show tonight.
Thanks very much indeed, Aubrey Masango. That issue around council and illiteracy has been around for a long time. It's really very, very interesting. Lots to come in the next little while. Don't forget, we'll be speaking to Tsepo Matlo, the International Executive Coach, about executive coaching, what it is, what it's like, and how difficult it is, and also how you make your money in that way. It really is one of the more interesting professions that we've seen. A lot of people saying that is the way that they're going, and it certainly clearly helps people as well. So looking forward to that conversation. That'll start in just a couple of moments. So just so that you're aware of that. And also, of course, we'll take your questions for him as well. You with the Money Show, just gone 7:30. Marky, good evening. Local councillors and photocopiers.
Yes, Stephen, we begin in the Northern Cape where the Siatemba local municipality is in hot water again, this time over allegedly flouting procurement processes to buy printers and photocopy machines. In September, the municipality faced allegations of mismanagement concerning the irregular appointments of senior managers. The Special Investigating Unit will now probe whether the prices of the equipment bought between January 2016 and last month were inflated or whether they were authorized at all. SIU spokesperson Keza Khanyago says anyone found to have committed crime in the latest probe will be prosecuted. Khanyago adds that the SIU is also authorized to initiate civil action to address any wrongdoing identified during its investigation.
Beyond investigating maladministration, corruption and fraud, the SIU is committed to identify systemic failures and recommend measures to prevent further losses.
The DA's Glenis Breitenbach says lawmakers in Parliament will need to toughen up to ensure public officials accused of corruption and maladministration are held accountable to restore public trust in the country's institutions. Breitenbach is among MPs serving on the ad hoc committee investigating allegations of police corruption made by KwaZulu-Natal top cop Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. This is a process running parallel to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, also looking into claims of political interference and corruption in the country's judicial system, but there have been some concerns that there could be a lack of consequence when the ad hoc committee and the Commission of Inquiry have wrapped up their work. Breitenbach says MPs cannot afford to drop the ball again.
Well, if Parliament wants to do its job at all, and if Parliament wants to do its job seriously, then yes, certainly. There's more than enough already out there for us to make recommendations that should be dealt with. And you want to bear in mind that Parliament has already once before been found lacking by the Constitutional Court, no less, for not doing its job properly. So we need to step up.
A 22-year-old student from Manenberg who was allegedly attacked by police last week says it isn't the first time being profiled by the SAPS. In a video gaining traction online, Storm Monroe can be heard telling police he isn't a gangster, after which he was thrown to the ground and his bag was searched. Monroe says he was previously shot by SAPS when he was in grade 11.
They were not giving me a valid reason as to what the probable cause was for searching me. If what I have done was so bad, why not just arrest me? Why go the violent route and assault me and leave?
The matter is subject to an IPID investigation. And more than 150,000 people have taken shelter in coastal provinces of the Philippines as a powerful typhoon neared landfall in a region hit by some of the country's deadliest storms. The typhoon is on a collision course with the country's island chain, bringing with it winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 170 kilometers per hour. Thousands of residents have been evacuated since yesterday, where 3-meter surges are predicted. A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 15 degrees and 16 degrees and peak at highs between 20 and 22 degrees. A partly cloudy start for Cape Town. Otherwise, it's clear skies tomorrow, along with fresh southerly winds at a low of 15 and a high of 25 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. The Siatemba local municipality in the Northern Cape is in hot water again, this time over allegedly flouting procurement processes to buy printers and photocopy machines.
LLB graduates can fast-track their legal career with the Law Society of South Africa's PVT School for Legal Practice. LPC accredited, this 4-month practice-ready course, which is taught by practicing lawyers, can reduce your PVT contract by 12 months for admission. Study by day, after hours, or via distance at campuses nationwide. The first 2026 intake runs from January to April. Applications close 31 October 2025. Apply now at lssalead.org.za. That's lssalead.org.za.
It's amazing what help can do. Help can take you from smart money moves to smart gadgets and household must-haves. With an FNB Premier Credit or Fusion card, get up to 40% back in e-bucks on devices and appliances. Open any FNB Premier account today, celebrating 25 years of helping you live the Premier life. FNB, help changes everything. TC's earn rules apply while stocks last. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Live extra with Checkers, SA's #1 in value supermarket. Save big on deals like Sunshine D 40% light or 60% original fat spread, 500 grams, any 2 for 79 Rand. Baby Soft 2-ply toilet rolls, 9 per pack, and Domestos Power Foam 450 mils, both for 99 Rand. And Nescafe Gold caffeinated instant coffee, 200 grams, any for 149.99. Valid until Sunday at Checkers, Checkers Hyper, or shop on 6060. The Money Show. How I make my money.
Well, there are lots of different ways, as you know, to make money. And at 25 minutes now to 8 the time, we discuss an area, a sort of career path, which has really gained a lot of traction. I think that's because there's a big demand for it. And I think that many people are also seeing the results of using it. And we're talking about executive coaching. Tsepo Matlu is someone who's been an international executive coach for many years, has his own background in the sort of management of corporate, managing people, leading people, and he joins us now. Tsepo, good evening. Thanks so much for spending the time with us on The Money Show tonight.
Stephen, and good evening to your listeners, and thank you for having me tonight.
I'd like to start, if you don't mind, with a definition. I mean, when you hear the word coach in South Africa, you immediately think Hugo Broos or Rassie Erasmus. And I can understand that, and they both have a sort of secret sauce to them. How do you see what you do? Or to put it another way, what is an executive coach?
I think in simple terms is a strategic support. Someone who creates a space for an executive not to feel alone. So executives, majority of them, they have qualifications, they have the experience, they come from multiple backgrounds. But as you go higher up in the executive chain, you start to require a different person that can support you, that can assist you in the work that you're doing so that you can navigate complex business challenges and decisions, and the ability to actually start looking at your own emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, how you communicate, how you build culture in organization. But what we don't do in coaching, we don't advise, so we don't tell executives what to do, but what we do, we work with them cultivating what they know and how we can grow them, helping them to see blind spots and also to be able to look at areas of development. And that's why coaching starts with goal setting. What do I want to improve, or what do I want to do in the next level of my career or positions or power or whatever that the executive will need. in the coaching space.
So you don't teach someone how to scrum, you teach them how to win the game through all sorts of means. Would that be a good way of putting it?
Not really teaching. I would like to use the word support.
Yeah.
Because teaching has, so we transfer the skills. But with coaching, we make an assumption that you might have the skill and not know how to use it, or you might have the expertise or experience and require support from someone else who won't judge you, someone who's not emotionally involved, someone who will be able to ask questions. So in simple terms, coaching is about asking questions, or what we call empowering questions, in order for someone to be able to build themselves up.
Mm. How do you get into it, Tsepo? Because, I mean, I would think that most coaches have some sort of experience, not necessarily in the corporate sphere, but of life. So how do you get into it? I know you have your own story, obviously.
Yes. I think generally, if you would like to become a coach, you must study a coaching course. There are multiple coaches in the market, even with universities these days. They also have coaching courses. There's also short courses where you can, so that you can decide whether this field is yours or not. And I want to say this because we have a lot of people listening, that there are people who call themselves coaches, but they have never attended even a course, or they are actually not trained to be a coach, and they are not even a member or an accredited member that belongs to a body that ensures that the coaching they're doing is authentic, is true, and it is within a certain framework. So coaching does require someone to go and study to become a coach.
Mm. When you are speaking to someone that you coach, and I imagine they're different spheres and slightly different approaches, is most of your job about talking, or is most of your job actually about listening?
Mm-hmm. So most of my work as a coach is about listening and exploring. So imagine that somebody is in a cave and they're an expert in how to cave, but then they want someone to look at them from a distance and listen to them and make them feel like they're not alone. So I always say coaching is like a think tank. It's like you are up there as an executive. You don't want to talk to your personal assistant or your junior staff members, but you want to talk to someone independent out of your organization, someone who can be able to show you the blind spots and things that you're not seeing. So I'm there working with this gentleman or lady as they go in and cave, and I'm asking questions. So how far do you want to go? I want to go 15 meters. How are you measuring to make sure that you're going to be there? So those are sort of conversations that we have. So it's called the coaching conversation.
Mm. How did you get into it, Tsepo? Because you were actually in a leadership position at quite a young age.
Yes. So I became a manager at the age of 21, and one of my struggles was blending in the culture and the traditions of how I was raised. So I was raised in a village where elders are respected. So when I became a manager, I struggled with managing people who were older than me. And by the way, I was the youngest. So it made it difficult. And I met a lady called Karen, who then explained to me about how I can manage better. And she then introduced me to coaching. She introduced me to coaching, I would say, around 2003. And I thought, okay, I don't understand this concept. But what I started doing was to start researching first. And that's how I got into coaching. So 2013, that's when I did my first life coaching course. By the way, Stephen, I just want to make a comment when you said, so you could become a coach, let's say a life coach, because you have life experience. And that's what I thought. And when I went to do my life coaching course in 2013, I found that, wow, it was actually different. I didn't actually need to use my experience, but it is about the experience of the person I'm coaching. But the experience, trying to agree with you, Stephen, gives you the structure to be able to ask the right questions. So if you're going to coach doctors, you need to at least try to understand the medical language or the terms just to be able to ask questions, but it's not a must. I'm just saying it could be an advantage. So these days we see these people calling themselves financial coach, health coach. We're seeing so many coach terms coming up, and they're being specific to say, I coach people on this, on that, but majority still do the telling, which then basically just removes the term coaching or differentiate it from the trained coach with a self-made coach.
So this is about, in a way, legitimacy, or to put it another way, why should I listen to you, right?
Yes.
And if you have the experience, I mean, that kind of stuff is easy. Do you have to convince someone who's maybe older than you, someone who has a lot more life experience, someone in a very senior position that you've never been in? Do you have to prove or display, maybe is a better word, show why they must take you seriously?
It does happen, Stephen. And I think I want to say to those that are listening, if you're an executive or a manager, that it is sad when you have a great coach and you actually start to question the experience and qualification. And then it's of course it's okay these days because we have so many people who are not coaches. But I just want to say that we have great coaches who actually can coach, and it's okay to question. But then don't make a mistake to say, I'm a general manager, I want to become a CEO. Therefore, if you have never been a CEO, you cannot coach me. In my case, I will say, luckily, I've worked myself up to an executive position. I've also I've sat in 2 boards. I also was a chairperson of a board. So that experience, yes, then talks for me. But I've met other younger coaches or same age as me who might not have been exposed like me, but actually they have the right experience in terms of coaching. So yes, it does help in terms of the experience and qualification, but it shouldn't be like the only thing that we question.
No, sure. I mean, I remember the first time I went to a doctor that was younger than me, and it was fine because they were a doctor, if you know what I mean. But there is that funny moment. You spoke about, and you mentioned how you were a manager at 21, the youngest person in the room, and how difficult that was. I wonder if our society has changed quite a lot, and I don't think that's so rare now. Do you think that that age sort of issue where people don't want to be led or managed by a person younger than them, it might still be there, but it's kind of less of a thing?
Yes, it's still there, unfortunately, in certain industries. And just to say, maybe linking your last question and this question, I also had an older person question me as a coach to say, at your age, I don't think you could be able to coach me. And we are seeing that even in careers. I'm tempted to mention the industries, but I don't want to do that because most of them are my clients. But there are certain industries when you go on site and you can see that this young person is 26 and is a manager of people who are in their 40s and 50s, and there's an issue here. He doesn't understand us. He does their language issue. There's so many things that are coming up, and obviously we're seeing technology as well. It's not really helping us. Technology is supposed to enable us to become efficient, effective, but what we are seeing is that people are starting to fight with technology. Now, bringing in young leaders and technology coming in at the same time, it unfortunately creates a problem for us as a country and in multiple spaces that I don't want to mention.
When you speak to executives, are there certain things that you see coming through again and again, and is confidence one of them?
Yes, confidence, it is one of them. There is something else that I want to bring in. So after being a coach for 5 years, what I then realized was some of the leaders I was coaching were also making emotional decisions. And when I say emotional, I mean exactly that. So someone has a traumatic experience or was bullied in his or her last position or grew up in a space where they didn't really have much attention. And what they do is they carry this into their position. And now, what I then started researching on was around how can I actually reposition the coaching to start looking also in the wellness side. So my coaching has now blended. So that was the first 5 years. I've been in coaching for 10 years this year. So in the last 5 years, I've then blended that. So even in my questions from the beginning, I started looking at their wellness side. So what are you doing in terms of health? How are you dealing with your emotional side of things? How do you see your emotions coming up? What triggers you? And some of these questions that I ask are deliberate to make them understand the impact of their actions and decision. But yes, confidence becomes one of them. And I think the reason for confidence is because people sometimes are not sure whether they're doing the right thing or not. And I'm seeing also junior managers who are very good in operations. And when you give them a strategic position as a leader, they struggle to adjust to strategy because they still feel good with the expertise. And then when you become an executive and I have to sit with you down and I hear you still talking about operations, struggling to adjust into strategy and thinking strategy is complex. So we're not giving people room to learn, develop, and become executives. When somebody is good, we quickly promote them. But are they ready for the next level of their position?
It's the same old problem that has been for years and years and years. You run a mechanical workshop, you take the best mechanic, make them the boss, and now you've lost the best mechanic and you don't have the best boss.
Yes, and that's what we're seeing, by the way, in almost all the industries. In almost the, yeah, I don't want to talk about the industries, but in so many industries where I go. So I also do team coaching and executive coaching. The team coaching and groups. So this is where we have group of leaders together or group of managers together. Then we have this blended one where we would have like junior staff members up to the higher level in a one coaching room, just to get them to interact, communicate, so that the guys can learn. And that's when you start to pick up these things that a senior person is trying to compete with the junior staff members in terms of knowledge. And at that level, we're no more looking at knowledge. We're looking at the heart for the people. We're looking at, can you make people feel connected to their job? Can you create a culture that is welcoming? Can you really foster change in the organization that makes people feel like they belong, feel like this is where I could serve? But once you start competing with them, you might actually become toxic by mistake. So it's those small things that we have to carefully look at. And in the work that I do, then that's how I blend in the whole thing so that senior leaders can start to look at themselves as the heart of the organization and how they can lead others and ensure that there is a culture that is a common culture that is agreed to by everyone working in the organization.
We're speaking to the executive coach tonight, Tsepo Motlu, on how I make my money. 9 minutes now to 8.
Your office is more than just a place to work. It's a reflection of your success. At Desk and Chair, we help you elevate your workspace with locally manufactured desks and a wide range of chairs to suit your style and budget. Our expert consultants are with you every step of the way, from planning to delivery and assembly. Visit our showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk and Chair. Think, feel, work better.
I think it's time for an adventure. We could visit the grandkids, check on a London apartment while we're there, or we could meet them in Dubai and look at properties along the way.
Why settle in one place when you can be a global citizen? If it's on your mind, it's on ours. Partner with a wealth banker who will connect your global banking, lending and investments on a single platform. See money differently. Nedbank Private Wealth. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Something big is happening when the family group chat explodes, like the Chamberlain Big Summer Splash promotion, on from 23 October to 9 November. 10% off finest 1903 paint mixing. That's incredible! Amazing deals on outdoor, braai, pool and camping gear. Even the dogs joining in with our social media puppy paw pick competition for a chance to win 1,000 Rand. And what's that? You can meet Bucky's Butter live in store at Centurion. Come make a splash with the whole family. Chamberlain, famous for hardware since 1903.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, advancing Red Rocket's ambitions with Discovery Green as the off-taker to power Africa's future through affordable, renewable energy.
The Money Show. How I make my money.
7 minutes to 8. Tsepo Motlu is an international executive coach, years of experience in this field. Tsepo, when you are doing something like this, do you have to be genuinely interested in people? I mean, this is not something you can fake. People would know. You have to actually be interested in their stories, in their issues. You have to be interested in their success too. Otherwise, it's just surely not going to work.
Yes, presence is everything in coaching. And earlier you used the words listening. So those two are very, very important. Sometimes you even have to mimic the facial expressions, the tone of voice, and how you connect, because we always say coaching is about chemistry. So do I connect with you that I can be open enough and talk without fear? So indeed, presence is everything, and being able to really listen. And most of the times with the work that we do, we also paraphrase back. We also sometimes invite listening. So sometimes in my session, somebody could say, that really hurt me badly. And I could reflect it back to them. And I say to them, I hear that this really hurt you badly. How bad? So it's being able to make the person also feel connected to their own emotions, but most importantly, helping them to break through and saying, hey, so how do we move from here?
Yeah. I suppose one of the things that you're trying to do, and tell me if I get this right, is you're trying to help someone find almost their inner voice. So someone could be very successful, doing nicely, but think to themselves, I'm not actually quite there yet, but not know where there is. I mean, I felt that at times. I'm sure almost everybody who's sort of been in a career a long time has. Do you see that as part of your job? You spoke about achieving goals. It's one thing to achieve a goal when you know what the goal is, but sometimes you don't really know what the next goal should really be. And that's actually quite tough for people. I think that sometimes makes people almost leave a job or leave a field when they still have a lot more to give.
Yes, I think self-fulfillment, Stephen, is very important for all of us. And sometimes we grow fear, we grow doubt. And sometimes we want to be told that you have done well. We want to be celebrated. And when that doesn't come, and always what comes up is discipline, then it creates more problems. So are we seeing this a lot in coaching? Yes, we do. And it's something that people have to work on. One of the reasons, Stephen, that I decided in my coaching work to introduce things like walking with Tsepo or hiking with Tsepo was because of things like that. Being able to remove people from their comfortable boardroom, from their comfortable chair into doing other things. And in the last 3 years, I've also blended in mindfulness in my session. And the reason for that is one day I sat down and I realized what we are trying to deal with here is a person. And at the end of the day, let's be honest between me and you. One day, we will not be able to do the things that we're doing today. We'll get old. The cars that we love so much, we might not be able to drive. The houses that we want to have, the big houses, we might not even be able to step on them, maybe because of aging. So what do we have now that we can be proud of having in our life? What legacy are we building? Something that can make us proud. What if I don't have to wait for gratitude from others? What if I don't have to wait for somebody else to validate my work and say, Stephen, that was a great show? If people are quiet, it's a great show. The only time we know it's a bad show is when people complain. And that's exactly what is happening. But do we need appreciation? Yes. Do we need empathy? Yes. But what if we don't get it? That means the legacy we're building should be beyond how people are reflecting in us. Because what we are building is something that we might never see the impact of. We are impacting people every day. There are words that you might have spoken in 2 minutes that might impact somebody for the rest of their life. But then, do we need validation? Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. So yes, it does happen in the work that we do, where people start to doubt themselves. They're not sure about what they're doing. And then they start to have anxiety, and then it impacts their performance. Then they get disciplined, then they pick up again.
It's also about trust. I mean, you made the point right at the beginning that people need someone to talk to because they're often sort of alone. You might have the best office, but, it's the corner office, but you're alone in it because the decisions rest with you, the direction of the company or whatever rests with you. That feeling of loneliness can be fatal.
Yes. I have met leaders who don't know what to do next. And the leader is open to me to say, Tsepo, to be honest, I don't know what to do next. I feel like this organization is going down and I don't know what to do. And you can see that he's scared. And he or she is scared, and the board is waiting. And that's why I like how we started the interview with sports. That is why in sports, when a certain team loses, they fire the coach.
Yeah.
And when organization underperform, they fire the leader. And this has become practical. So each and every leader then needs to talk to someone they can open up with, they can trust, someone that they believe has their back. I coach leaders in and outside of South Africa.
We are going to, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm so sorry. Tsepo Motlu, thank you, the International Executive Coach on How I Make My Money.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, advancing Red Rocket's ambitions with Discovery Green as the off-taker to power Africa's future through affordable, renewable energy.
Well, you'll be able to hear that conversation with Tsepo again. It will be podcast, of course, for you. Looking at the US right now, the Dow Jones down 0.33%, the Nasdaq up 0.7%, the S&P 500 up 0.25%. We're back tomorrow. Good evening, 8 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening, I'm Maki Malapo. The Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa has welcomed the court order directing the City of Johannesburg to accelerate the verification of informal traders. Earlier today, the Gauteng High Court ordered the city to speed up the allocation of trading stalls to approved hawkers. SERI took legal action against the city after it removed traders operating without municipal permits. While the city regards the ruling as a win for the rule of law, SERI has emphasized that it is also a win for traders who have been sidelined. Alpha Ramushana has more.
The Gauteng High Court has ordered the City of Johannesburg to expedite the allocation.
That it is also a win for traders who have been sidelined. Alpha Ramushana has more.
The Gauteng High Court has ordered the City of Johannesburg to expedite the allocation of trading stalls to verified informal traders between tomorrow and the 18th of this month. However, the verification process will prevent undocumented foreign nationals and those who do not meet the required criteria from operating as informal traders. SERI's Director for Litigation, Kosnati Stole, says if the NGO had not taken legal action against the city, there would have been no urgency to accelerate the verification of informal traders.
We're able to get what the traders were looking for, which is to be regularized, because had it not been for this litigation, we would have found ourselves